Wow, this is very unexpected and don't really know what to say. I finished Cyberpunk for about 4 or 5 days now, and for some reason, it's just completely stuck in my head and I can't stop thinking about it. Um, to say it's a good game, I, I kind of hesitate to say that, but still, the feeling I get is quite hard to find in anything else, not just games. Sometimes you watch certain movies or watch certain series and it just sticks with you. You just keep thinking about it for weeks or months. And well, Cyberpunk is certainly one of them. Does that make it good or great? Well, maybe because I haven't really enjoyed this feeling for about at least 3 or 4 years now. I would say at least from a game. The last game I could remember that I had a similar feeling and enjoyment was Sleeping Dogs. Now, I want to give you a little bit of context from where I'm coming from and the type of gamer I am, so maybe you can relate better. Because certainly there are people who love sandbox games. Like, there are people who can play GTA for hours just customizing their apartment, their cars, how they look. They just go into the outback or inside a city and just do random things, experiment for, days on end, and they really love that kind of stuff. Me, on the other hand, I'm like the complete opposite. I'm like the opposite of a completionist. So understandably, for those people who wanted to go play mini games or mini poker, basketball, sing karaoke, buy a new apartment, kind of the sandbox type of thing, or role playing, for me, that didn't have any negative impact whatsoever because I'm not very interested in those kind of things in this kind of particular game. So because for me, I enjoy a variety of games. Obviously, I enjoy like Roller Coaster Tycoon, that kind of sandbox game. But another type of game that I enjoy is a game with, it's almost like a playable movie where the story is the main part of the game. I don't mind at all where there are certain games where the gameplay is almost just to get you from point A to point B, just to progress the story. And there have been many games like that where I didn't really enjoy the gameplay that much, but I kind of just kind of almost, if I could skip the gameplay just to watch the story, I would do that. So in this instance, I would say the gameplay is not too bad. It's not amazing by any means, but the city, the atmosphere, and the story, especially by the end, just the last part of the game kind of saved the game completely for me. To be honest, my feeling about Cyberpunk, right, was not always great. From the first moment I went in, it was like, okay, first off, that was the shock and awe of just how beautiful the city is. I mean, the verticality, the lighting, every angle you look is almost a scene out of Blade Runner or, one of those movies. I was just like, wow. It's like, am I in the Fifth Element right now? It's just amazing. Then as the gameplay started, I kind of like, okay, it's not too bad. I can put up with it. And yeah, I'll get my enjoyment out of it, but it's not blowing me away. And then as the story kind of progressed, at the beginning, I actually didn't like it very much because I didn't like any of the characters, or most of the characters. But mainly, I didn't like V, who's the main character, and I didn't like Johnny Silverhand at all. I thought he was like kind of an asshole, to be honest. And also, V is kind of like 50% of what comes out of his mouth is like a slang. It's like almost he's like a rapper that's trying to be cool by trying to use slang in every other word. You can't just use normal English. You just have to go like, oh, hey, shooms, eddies, and like preem, and that's all these made up slang that's kind of annoy me a little bit. And he wasn't like a very kind of calm and cool hero that I would probably want to be, or like a badass or something like that. He's just kind of a little bit like a gangbanger or something. It's kind of a little bit annoying to me at first, at the beginning anyway. And which is certainly the complete opposite from what I felt when I played Mass Effect, which I can compare to this game quite well because, believe it or not, I didn't actually get to play Mass Effect up until about 2 months before Cyberpunk came out. So I actually, for the first time, I played Mass Effect 2 and 3 back to back for the first time. I know a lot of people said they were jealous of me to be able to experience Mass Effect for the first time and also to be able to play it back to back 2 and 3 as well, because obviously people who played Mass Effect 2, they probably had to wait a few years before Mass Effect 3 came out, and then they get to continue the story, but I got to play it throughout. Now, the strange thing is, objectively in every way, Mass Effect 2 and 3 is a better game than this one. But for some reason, it had nowhere near the impact this game had on me when I finally finished it. Now, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but if I had to rank these 3 games, and the reason I put them together is because for me, they're quite similar in certain ways, in which there are 3 main features which will determine how much you enjoy it, right? I like to compare Mass Effect 2 and 3, Sleeping Dogs, and Cyberpunk. Now, the 3 main features that I kind of experienced while I'm playing it is, one is the world it creates, right, and the storyline. The second is the atmosphere. Again, it's the world, but it's the atmosphere of the world itself, of being in it, not just the storyline itself. And the third is obviously the gameplay, where basically it gets you from point A to point B. So you have the story, then you play a bit of game in between, then you get more story, then you play a bit more games in between. Now, if I had to rank these 3 games, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I probably put Sleeping Dog number 1. I actually enjoy that game the most. Then number 2, probably objectively, I would say obviously Mass Effect is much better than Cyberpunk, but I actually enjoy, or at least Cyberpunk hit me so much deeper than Mass Effect. And mainly it's because of the story and how much you can relate to it, really. I mean, so let's start with the gameplay, okay? Out of all of them, the gameplay, and it's the reason why Sleeping Dog is probably the best out of all 3, is I actually enjoy the gameplay of Sleeping Dog the most. It's like you get to be like a badass kung fu master, and the gameplay mechanic of that Batman Arkham Knight style, where you're just like going hand-to-hand combat, just using the mouse, pressing different combos. It just felt so badass to me. And you can kill people with like environmental things that they have lying around. You can use almost anything as weapon. You can pick up bats, pick up knives, and you can use guns, you can do kung fu, you can do cars, you can jump from car to car, you can slow motion bullet time. It's just like, it's so much fun. Now combine that with a story which I felt was basically just as good as Cyberpunk, because Cyberpunk, the ending is amazing, right? But up to the ending, the story was kind of not bad. It's quite enjoyable and quite interesting. But I didn't like the character, especially the one I'm playing as, V, as much. But for Sleeping Dogs, I really thought, wow, the Wei Shen was like, badass, really cool kung fu master, and he's like really loyal and just a typical hero. And I kind of like enjoy role playing as that kind of guy. And combine that with the gameplay, which I enjoy very much, and combine that with just the open world and the atmosphere. It was the complete package for me, right? So the Mass Effect, I thought the gameplay, the gunplay was a bit more fun than Cyberpunk. Now taking into account like how much earlier it came out, so obviously if you factor in the graphics and like the gunplay, just how spectacular the gunfiring and stuff in Cyberpunk look, then maybe it's closer. But if you objectively look at it from when Mass Effect came out, then obviously the gameplay is better, but not by much. I still enjoyed it. But the story itself, I can relate much more to the story of Cyberpunk and Sleeping Dogs. I mean, you're not going to relate to someone being like a universal hero going out to save the entire universe from some reapers or whatever. It's still fun and it's amazing, but when you compare it to these other 2, where you're like a downtrodden little cog living in like a vast city, you can just it really hits you like it's that is your life. You're just like a nobody in a big city, and everything is just against you. You're like, nobody knows you. You're just living with your hopes and dream, hoping one day you make it big, and it's just like wow. And also the sad ending of Cyberpunk. It's just, yes, most of our lives are pretty sad. That's just the way it is, and it kind of, oh man, it just hits completely different. And especially the part that I love most about Cyberpunk's story are the characters of Johnny's old friends. being older, I can so much relate with them. Like you get to see them earlier when they were younger, just full of life, just completely carefree and happy, full of hope and dreams, just wondering what would the future hold, and living each day with just like joy, youthful abandon. And then later on, after 50 years, when you come back in the storyline, you see them like kind of depressed and burnt out, and just life has just completely beat the joy out of them, and they're just seen better days. Now they're like old, and kind of like their life is just they've lost their hope. Basically, they're just like sad and just don't know it's almost like you're just waiting to die, almost, with the character of Kerry. As in the story, when you met him, there were rumors that he's going to like commit suicide and stuff, because he just doesn't feel like living anymore. And I so much would have loved more of that, more of you playing as Johnny, just going around helping Johnny to make right, to do good, and just right all the wrongs he did, and help uplift his friend back up. I wish there were more of these Kerry's storyline, so you can uplift Kerry. Maybe you can go and help Danny, maybe go and help the reporter. I can't quite remember her name, but I wish there were more of these side stories, because all you got to do really was just like playing with the band, which was like a beautiful moment, just for you just brought Johnny back to just give them life once more. You can never go back in time and be young again, but maybe just for a brief moment you can relive what it felt like back in the day, maybe the best years of your life. And I wish there was more of that. After helping Kerry, maybe you could have gone and helped Danny, maybe help Henry sort his life out, and then help the reporter girl to, reconnect with her music again and start playing again, or whatever. I wish there was just more of that, because I can just relate so much. The scene with the Kerry on the boat with that beautiful song, that's probably one of the best moments in the game. To be honest, I think there's a film kind of similar to this, where a guy kind of can see a ghost, and so the ghost like enlists his help to try and go and right all his wrongs in the past, go make up with his old friend, make peace with his family or whatever. And that's just what I wish we had gotten more of, because these characters really hit me much deeper than just the random new friends that V made, right? Because I don't know, maybe when you meet completely new character, it just kind of felt there's not a connection there, so you have to spend some time to build it up first. But with Johnny's old friend, you get it straight away. Like, you see it in flashback, and now they're like older. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, to be honest. But one of the things I wish the Cyberpunk could have done, which would have made the ending even better for me, at least personally, is if there was another option where you can go do the final mission both with these new friends and with Johnny's old friend. I think that would just be perfect, because as it is, and obviously we're in spoilers territory now, as it is, you can either choose to go as Johnny and do the mission with Rogue, right? But then at the end, we have absolutely no idea what happened, and Johnny just tell him, hey, we made it, man, we did it. And he's like, oh, cool. Or you can play as V and go with Pan Am, and then at the end of it, you go into the Mikoshi and you meet Johnny, and Johnny's like, and you're like, hey, I did it, man. And Johnny's like, oh, cool, great. And it felt a bit kind of sad that the final mission, after all the friendship they've built up together, they should have been able to go together, as a team. It's like, hey, man, okay, we are like, let's do this together. One final mission, let's finish it together. And then maybe in the mission, you can first break into the tower with Pan Am, and then when you get to the inner defenses, when you want to breach the final defenses and take on Adam Smasher, the V could be like, hey, okay, now you're up, Johnny, settle this one last time from the past, when they went on the mission, they failed. Now it's time to complete the loop, or settle the score, finish the unfinished business once and for all. And you can then take the pill halfway through the mission, and then Johnny and Rogue and his friend just go and beat the bleep out of the Arasaka. And then at the end, it will be nice once you go into Mikoshi, then it will be like V and Johnny sitting together, both fully aware of what they've done, what happened during the mission, and just hey man, friend, we've we did it, my man. We made it, and it will be a bit nicer than if only just one of them, either one of them did it and just told the other about it. It's kind of, it lessened the impact just slightly a bit for me. Also, I think it would have been nicer in terms of the friendships you've made. So in the final mission, like all of V's friends would have come along to help V, because you made friends with them, you've bonded with them, and at the same time, all of Johnny's friends that he's made peace with and gone back and right the wrongs with, come along to help Johnny. So you have two groups of friends, one when you played as V that you made, another group of friends like Rogue and stuff that you've just like, you used to hate each other or you've done wrong to them, and now you made peace with them, they love you and they come along as well to help Johnny, and it would just be like one final big grand mission. It would be even bigger scale than the one we got. I thought it would just be nice. So in the end, what am I trying to say? What am I trying to say? That's a good point. Well, what I'm trying to say is, if you haven't played this game, maybe you should give it a chance. There are so many other games out there that charges $60. You know what I mean? And the amount of just the ambition of this game and the amount of content you still actually get, even with all the apparent like missing features and stuff, which I can't speak of because I didn't watch any of the trailer, or I haven't been following its production cycle or whatever. I just went in almost completely blind. So what I felt, what you will get from $60 must be at least somewhat worth it. I mean, for the amount of stuff you get. Some other $60 game is just completely, it's nowhere near this, right? And to be honest with you, I didn't actually, throughout about 80% of the game, I was still thinking, it was like, it's okay, it's like, it's a good fun game, it's worth my $60. And I even got bored with it for like a brief period where I stopped playing it for a couple of days, and I came back to like, okay, yeah, I want to find out what happened, I want to finish the story. And as you get more and more and more towards the end, everything kind of became better and better. You grew more attached to the character, and everything, the stakes and the tension just rise and rise and rise. And the final like 3 hours, it was like, it just saved the game for me, to be honest. And partly I think it's because of the way like the missions were set out as well. They didn't organize the mission and kind of guide you towards what's going on very well. You just open the mission like tab and you just see the main missions and just a host of just random mission. I think they should have sorted out a bit more where, okay, this is the main quest line and these are the main side quests where you get to interact with all the other important characters, and then there are other side quests where it's just like, okay, this is just random unimportant quests with not much story in it, go collect cars, and here's go around to the boxing matches and stuff. They should have sorted it into categories better, because as it was with me in my playthrough, right, everything was kind of broken apart. I would do one quest where it's like you meet an important side character for the first time, then the next quest I'll go off just doing some random fetch quest that doesn't mean anything and doesn't have any impact to the story whatsoever. Then another mission where again it's just like some escort or random mission, and then by the time I get back to another important mission, the rhythm is kind of broken a bit, so it's like the story doesn't progress too smoothly. You sometimes you're almost forgotten about a certain character. When you have to come back and meet him again, you have to kind of remind yourself, like, wait a minute, what did I do with him last time? What's the emotional connection I should have with him here? But then obviously towards the end, when you've just done all the mission with all the side characters, it kind of all comes to a nice conclusion. It's one of those movies where unless you get to the end, you're not going to have like that big payoff. Like throughout the movie, it might not be that great, but the payoff is so worth it that it kind of makes up for kind of all the problems beforehand. And speaking of problems, there's another caveat I have to say, is that for me, I played on PC and I seem to be very lucky because I did not experience any game-breaking bug at all. Obviously there were glitches, there were graphical glitches where texture would load weirdly, or some random texture would pop in and out and just, it would just pop on screen and then disappear and stuff like that. Or maybe car would kind of spawn in random places, but it's like very minor. compared to the stuff that I see online with other people experience, it's just like it's amazing. I don't understand why I didn't experience it. Maybe my PC is okay. It's quite powerful. It's like a 1080 Ti, so not like the newest tech, but still quite a powerful PC. Maybe that has something to do with it. But that's why my experience is probably different than people who experience like game breaking bugs again and again, had to reload that save game again and again. Then obviously that would be a completely different situation. Okay, so in the end, what I'm saying is Cyberpunk might be a game that's objectively okay, but after finishing it, it's been stuck in my mind for much longer than when I finished Mass Effect, and it still have like a deep emotional connection to me. So maybe you should give it a try and don't judge it until you finish it, because it really, if you judge it halfway through, it's completely different than when you finish the game and try to process everything and then judge your experience, your total experience of it. So obviously if someone's played halfway through and review it, you get a completely different opinion. It would have gone the same for me too. If I had just played halfway through or even 70% through and then gave you my opinion, I bet it's going to be completely different than what I'm saying right now. So maybe if you played it, I hope you enjoy it as much as I did.